Tickling has nothing to do with your skin. Run your fingers along your own ribs right now. Go ahead. Nothing happens. No squirm, no gasp, no laugh. Now imagine someone else doing the exact same motion in the exact same spot with the exact same pressure. Your whole body would react before you even finish the thought. Same fingers, same spot, same pressure. Completely different result. Something inside your head is making that call, instantly, without asking your permission. And it isn't your skin that's deciding. It's a part of your brain working so fast, so quietly, that you've spent your entire life relying on it without ever knowing it was there. Here's the strange part. The reason you can't tickle yourself is the same reason you know where your body ends and the rest of the world begins. It's the same system that decides whether a touch on your shoulder feels comforting or threatening. And in a small number of people, when this system breaks down, the world stops making sense in ways that look a lot like losing your mind. To understand it, you have to go back more than 100 years to two men who took tickling far more seriously than anyone before them. In 1897, psychologists G. Stanley Hall and Arthur Allen sent out surveys asking people to describe in detail what it felt like to be tickled. Hundreds of responses came back, and buried in all that data was something nobody had noticed before. People kept describing two completely different sensations using the same single word. One was light, a feather drifting across your arm, an ant crawling up your leg, a strand of hair brushing your neck in the dark. It's mildly irritating, sometimes itchy, and it rarely makes anyone laugh. The other was deeper. Ribs, armpits, the soles of your feet. The kind that makes you twist away, shriek, and laugh helplessly, even when you're desperately trying to make it stop, even when it doesn't feel good at all. Hall and Allen gave these two sensations separate names. The light, crawling kind they called nismesis. The intense, laughter-inducing kind they called gargalesis. You don't need to remember the words. What matters is what they noticed next. Nismesis, you can absolutely do to yourself. Drag a feather along your own arm and you'll feel it every time, exactly the same as if someone else did it. But gargalesis, the kind that doubles you over laughing, almost nobody can produce on their own body. Not even a little. Why would your nervous system treat these two sensations so differently when the touch itself can be nearly identical? Decades earlier, Charles Darwin had already circled around part of the answer. In his writing on the expression of emotions in humans and animals, he noticed that tickling seems to require two things happening at once. The touch has to be unexpected, and it has to come from someone you trust. A stranger grabbing your side on a crowded train doesn't produce giggles. It produces fear and probably a shove. Same location on your body, same kind of pressure, but your reaction depends entirely on who you believe is doing it and whether you saw it coming. Darwin had no way to look inside the brain to prove this, but he'd already spotted the clue that would take another century to fully explain. Tickling isn't really a response to touch at all. It's a response to surprise, filtered through trust. And here's the thing about your own hand. It is never, ever a surprise. This pattern isn't unique to humans either. Researcher Jaak Panksepp spent years studying laughter in animals and found that rats, when tickled by a human hand on their bellies, produce bursts of high-pitched sound, too high for human ears to hear without special equipment, that closely resemble laughter. The rats would even start chasing the hand afterward, the same way a child chases a parent for more tickling. Chimpanzees and other great apes tickle each other constantly during play, often around the neck, belly, and armpits, the exact same regions that make humans laugh hardest. Across multiple species, tickling seems tied to play, to social bonding, and to trust between two bodies. It is, from the very beginning, a social signal, not just a physical one. And a signal between two bodies can't happen with only one body in the room. So what is actually happening inside your skull in the half second between a touch landing on your skin and your brain deciding how to feel about it? In the late 1990s, a researcher named Sarah Jane Blakemore, working with Daniel Wolpert and Chris Frith at University College London, built something almost comically simple to find out. A robotic arm with a small piece of foam attached to the end. Volunteers placed one hand under the robot. With their other hand, they controlled the robotic arm using a lever, which would then move the foam against their first hand. In some trials, the foam touched their hand the instant they moved the lever, perfectly in sync with their other hand. They controlled the robotic arm using a lever, which would then move the foam against their first hand. In some trials, the foam touched their hand the instant they moved the lever, perfectly in sync with their own action. In other trials, the researchers added a short delay, just a fraction of a second, between the volunteers' movement and the foam making contact. When the touch happened in perfect sync with their own movement, volunteers rated it as barely ticklish at all. But when there was even a tiny delay, breaking the direct link between their action and the sensation, the exact same foam on the exact same hand suddenly felt noticeably more ticklish, more like it belonged to someone else. Your brain, it turns out, runs a prediction engine constantly, every second you're awake. A region near the base of your skull called the cerebellum, a part of the brain mostly known for coordinating movement and balance, also does something else. Every time you move, it forecasts the exact sensation that movement is about to produce. Reach over to scratch your own arm, and your cerebellum has already calculated what that scratch will feel like, a fraction of a second before your fingers even arrive. When the forecast matches the real sensation perfectly, your brain quietly cancels it out. Why spend attention and energy reacting to something it already saw coming? But when someone else touches you, there's no forecast to match against, nothing to cancel. The sensation arrives raw and unfiltered, and your brain treats it as new information from outside, something that might matter, something worth a reaction, a laugh, a flinch, a jump. This single invisible system is quietly drawing a line, thousands of times every day, between what is you and what is not you. Now here's where it gets stranger, and a lot more serious than tickling. This same prediction and cancellation system appears to be involved in something far beyond your ribs. Researchers studying schizophrenia have found that some people with the condition are able to tickle themselves, something almost nobody else can do. Their brain's internal forecasting isn't correctly predicting and canceling their own movements anymore, so a self-generated touch starts to feel like it came from somewhere else, and the same breakdown may run in the other direction too. If your brain stops correctly labeling your own thoughts and actions as self-generated, they can start to feel foreign. A thought can feel like a voice. An impulse can feel like it was placed there by someone or something outside you. The same boundary that decides whether a touch makes you laugh or makes you jump may also be helping decide whether a thought, an urge, or a movement feels like it belongs to you at all. You've never had to think about this boundary, not once in your life, and yet it has been running underneath everything you've ever felt, said, or done. Think about what this means for something as ordinary as a hug. A hug from someone you love, and a hug from a stranger can involve almost identical pressure, almost identical contact, sometimes even similar duration. But one can slow your heartbeat and loosen the tension in your shoulders. The other can make your entire body lock up. Your skin isn't doing anything different in either case. Your brain's prediction system, built on familiarity, trust, and the absence of threat, is doing all of the work instantly, long before you consciously decide how you feel about it. Now think about how much of your day is filled with touch your brain already expects, and therefore barely registers. Your phone screen under your thumb, your steering wheel, your keyboard, your own hands washing your own face in the mirror each morning. All of it predicted, canceled, filtered down to almost nothing. And think about how rare, unexpected, trusted touch has become for a lot of people. A hand landing on your shoulder when you didn't hear someone walk up. An arm around you that you didn't ask for and didn't see coming. A hug that catches you off guard on an ordinary day. For a lot of adults, especially those living and working alone, these moments are becoming rarer. And the same system that makes it impossible to tickle yourself may be part of the reason those small, unpredictable moments of human contact can feel disproportionately powerful when they finally happen. So the next time someone tickles you and you collapse into helpless laughter, pay attention to what's actually going on underneath it. It was never really about your ribs, your feet, or your skin. It was your brain. quietly admitting that someone else just slipped past its defenses, and for one unguarded second, you didn't see it coming.